Hi, my name is Joslyn LaFlamme, and this is my metaphoric journey through Ireland. Ethnicity is a collection of books. Each book adds a unique perspective to the entire collection that the other books do not provide by themselves. Each book tells a different story, but together, those stories create the greater story of humanity. Each person tells his story from a different perspective, but each of those stories creates the history of human life. In the classroom, each student will have a different background, a different story. As teachers, we should encourage each student to boldly tell his story. We should encourage the individuality of each student and utilize their ethnic differences within the classroom as diverse ways to learn from a broader perspective. The whole collection of books would be boring if each book were the same. The classroom would also be painfully dull if each student was exactly the same. Teachers should embrace those differences in their students to enhance learning through them. Culture is a panoramic picture. Individual pictures only capture a small portion of the entirety of what is being viewed. They show a small piece of the greater picture. A panoramic picture captures the entire picture being viewed, whether that picture is a cliff, an ocean shore, a field, or any other setting. A panoramic picture captures all the pieces that make up the beauty of the whole view. While each individual piece is beautiful, it does not capture the entire essence of the picture. With culture, there are many smaller pieces that create the entire culture, such as language, clothing, family structures, etc. While each piece is beautiful by itself, individually, it does not adequately represent the entire culture. Only a full view of a culture, with all the smaller pieces included, can display its true beauty. In a classroom, teachers will encounter many different cultures. We, as teachers, must appreciate each individual aspect of culture represented in our classrooms, understanding that each difference represents a beautiful culture, not something wrong, just something different. Linguistic diversity is a flower blooming among the rocks. Linguistic differences often create barriers between people and cultures. Because language creates such a barrier, when that barrier cannot be breached, people are separated. Walls are built up between people and prejudices are formed simply because of language. Yet language is a beautiful part of culture that defines and distinguishes people from each other. Just like a beautiful flower blooming among rocks and cliffs, linguistic diversity does not have to be negative, even though it may create some difficulty. Different languages are beautiful, despite their surface difficulty. As teachers, linguistic diversity can create some difficulty in the classroom, but it can also provide avenues for so much more learning. Different languages provide a window into different cultures and perspectives. As teachers, we should promote different languages and incorporate them as much as possible into our teaching. Religious diversity is rock climbing. Rock climbing seems foreboding and ominous at first. Yet, if you just follow the path that the rocks naturally lay out for you, you will reach the end. The rocks guide your climb. Religion guides people's lives. Many people fear religion because they fear where it might take them. Climbing along the path is not always easy. In the classroom, many different religions will be represented through the students. As teachers, we have to respect that even though some of our students may not be climbing the same cliffs we are, they are struggling in their climb to discover truth. Gender identity is a row of colored houses. Each house is designed uniquely to stand out among the rest of the houses. The color or style is designed specifically to accentuate the uniqueness of the house. The only caveat is that an architect designed the house. He picked out which color, size, and style it should be. He created it to stand out, but the house did not decide for itself what it wanted to be. We cannot decide what our gender is. Our Creator has already decided that for us. But we can still live uniquely beautiful because that is how the Creator intended the world to be. He made each person his specific size, shape, and gender to make him stand out against the rest of humanity. As teachers, this issue of gender identity is becoming more and more relevant. While we cannot declare the gender that students can and cannot be politically, we can help them understand that they are unique and beautiful exactly as they are, without changing anything about themselves. Discrimination is a cemetery. Many superficial differences divide people across the world, such as wealth, status, relationships, geographic location, etc. While many factors determine a person's importance on earth, these differences fade in a cemetery. Here, the headstones read father, sister, mother, brother, etc. All of the worldly titles that were so important fade away. Everyone is united in the same place, and the truly important family titles are all that are left. In a classroom, children will discriminate against each other. Whether we like it or not, biases and judgment are very real in schools. As teachers, we should lead by example, showing our students what it looks like to treat each child with equal access to the same achievements as everyone else. Instead of discriminating against differences, we can display differences in a positive light and find ways to show how those differences are important and unique in their own special ways. Diversity is all around us, whether we desire it or not. As teachers, we have to not only expect diversity in a myriad of avenues such as gender, religion, language, etc., but we have to know how to properly respond to it. Diversity is never bad. Just because something is different does not make it bad. It may make us uncomfortable, but we never grow or learn unless we are pushed out of our comfort zones. Diversity colors life. Without it, life would be dull. So, as teachers, we have to discover how we each will utilize the diversity in our classrooms to color our classes a little brighter. This next part of the video is focused on universal design. Universal design is all around us, as we discovered while in Ireland. Sometimes, even the smallest details can greatly assist someone who requires just a little extra assistance. This first example of universal design was everywhere in Ireland. The bumpy sidewalk notified people that they were entering the street. Not only did the texture of the sidewalk help, but the crosswalk sign also made a noise when it was safe to cross the street. It beeped mildly when it was not safe, then beeped very aggressively when it was safe to cross. As we were walking around in a park, there was a raised garden that had special plants in it. Each of the plants was distinguishable by its distinct texture. Around the edge of the garden were braille plaques that told the names of the plants that were in the garden. I thought that this garden was extremely thoughtful, providing not just the names of plants in braille for people who are blind, but also unique plants that are distinguished by how they feel. Some of the places that lacked universal design quite often were the old castles or historic buildings. Because those buildings were built so long ago without universal design in mind, it would be extremely costly to add those features now. This is a simple example of one of these types of buildings at Trinity College that discovered a way to have universal design without renovating the entire building. Although this ramp is only useful for a few short steps, it still allows people in wheelchairs or parents with strollers access to the building. In Ireland, what we call an elevator is commonly called a lift. These are popular in malls, banks, and any more modern business building. Obviously, this building was much more modern than many of the buildings we toured, but as more buildings are built or redesigned, universal design features such as this lift in the picture will be implemented into the design of the newer buildings. This next picture is another more modern feature of universal design. The smaller version of the lift is only intended for a few stairs as opposed to a few flights of stairs. However, it allows people easy access to the upper level of the building. This lift is also different from the elevator style lift because in a building with both stairs and elevators, the two methods of transportation are not next to each other. This smaller lift is right on the everyday set of steps. Therefore, people who are in wheelchairs would not have to go out of their way to find the nearest elevator and get to the next floor of the building. This picture was taken at Giant's Causeway. I thought that this feature was interesting because it was simply another entrance, but this entrance was designed to accommodate people in wheelchairs. Often, we do not consider if a wheelchair can fit through a gate or a doorway, and that causes discomfort. This way, with the sign, there would be no awkward attempts to get through the alternative entrance because this one is designed specifically for that purpose. Once again, this entrance is not the main entrance, which causes people in wheelchairs to go out of their way, but it does show thought and accommodation. This sign is a perfect example of historic buildings not built with thought about universal design. This sign was at a castle that did not have very good pathways to begin with. Even for those of us who were more sure-footed, we proceeded with caution as we looked around the castle. If one were to simply look at the castle, that he would be deterred from attempting to wheel a chair onto the grounds, but this sign proves that they realize they cannot accommodate people in wheelchairs, yet have not done anything to fix that. As seen at Trinity College, sometimes all that is necessary is a simple ramp. Even if that would not have been successful, no attempt was made to accommodate those with wheelchairs in this instance. Although this next picture may seem a little bit out of place, it is a perfect example of universal design. Audiobooks are useful not only for people who are blind, but also for any student or adults for that matter who may struggle with reading. Audiobooks can be used for children, in the classroom, in the car, or for pretty much anyone anywhere. While they are also helpful to people who are blind, they are far from restricted to that use only. One of the libraries that we visited had an automatic motion-sensing door at the entrance. I thought this feature was strange in a library, even though the library was relatively modern. This feature is helpful for anyone who has their hands full, honestly. It is helpful for people in wheelchairs, on crutches, pushing a stroller, carrying a stack of books, or a child. The list could go on for a while. This door creates easy access for a myriad of people, regardless of their physical state. Many times when we were riding the Dart, I wondered how people in wheelchairs or with walkers or canes could get on and off. I watched one elderly lady walking with the assistance of a cane hurry as fast as she could to get off the Dart before the door quickly shut, and she barely made it. After watching closely each time we rode and asking questions, we discovered that the person in the wheelchair has to let someone know ahead of time who will be able to lay down the ramp and assist the person on and off the Dart. No matter which scenario, the person would not be able to access the Dart by themselves. They would need the assistance of someone else, even with the ramp. As I looked for features of universal design while in Ireland, I realized that there is so much more we could be doing for people who have disabilities. They deserve to be part of everyday life, just like everyone else does. We should be doing everything in our power to allow them the same opportunities as the rest of the world. Although this is not always practical or realistic, if we live with that mindset, we will be able to at least be more sensitive and compassionate and consider ways that we could assist someone who has a disability. This project was so much fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to share some of my favorite pictures with you from Ireland. I learned so much, and I hope that I am able to implement the things that I learned while I was there. Thanks for watching!